Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we are going to be looking at the astrological transits for August 7th through August 13th. I owe some people an apology. Uh, I'm still taking care of my mom. I've been very transparent about this. I don't tell you guys this for attention. I tell you guys this because if something goes wrong in the uploads or the forecast or something, then I just own it so that way it's not a question. I'm not a flake. I'm really not. I'm a Gemini, but I'm not a very good flake. Okay? Just period. Um, the month ahead forecast that was scheduled to upload on August 1st at 7 a.m. YouTube did the upload, however, Spotify didn't. And I didn't catch that actually until Thursday. I'm recording this right now. It's Friday morning. The moon's in Pisces. So I don't know what's about to happen with the Aries stuff for me personally. I just know the energy that we've already talked about. Um, I actually sat down. So Monday, this last week, I had doctor's appointments with my mom. And then Tuesday, I sat down, recorded, did upload stuff on the computer, did a thing, went to my chiropractor. This is a normal thing. I either go Mondays or Tuesdays. And by the time I came home, my mom's like, I need to go to the ER. I was like, oh. So for people that were expecting the full moon video, yeah, that got delayed. It was uploaded late, and that's because unexpected things came through with the full moon. And I do not suggest, especially if you were energetically sensitive, I do not suggest full moon ER visits. It's a lot of energy. And I was kind of a zombie by the time I got to Wednesday, just honestly. But mom is good. Mom is home. We're still managing her symptoms with the issues at home, which is good. We ended up not having to go inpatient, which is nice. I get tired of inpatient stuff, so there's that. I apologize for the little nuisances and things kind of getting uploaded late. That one I thought was fine, and Spotify said, "Ha." But then the other one was completely because, like I said, I got home and she said, "Let's go." And sorry, guys, she won. So that's exactly what we did. But anyways, all right. So going from the weekend, the moon's going to go through Aries, of course. Like this is some of the energy that we're carrying through. Some of us, we were able to use the energy productively and we were able to get some tasks done. We got a lot of things accomplished, like in the garage, out in the shed, in the yard, got all the yard work done, pulled a bunch of weeds or whatever. We got something done very, very productively. However, some of us, we didn't actually finish the project and we'll end up finishing it this upcoming weekend, just to be clear. For others, there was a very specific energy. And the term that I used last week was play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And some of the energy tied to that came through. Now, the other part of what happened over the weekend was we started the Jupiter-Sun square. Jupiter, of course, being the higher position, pushing and enforcing his will onto the sun, but the sun is exalted. So there's this egotism in the energy where at one moment we're getting the harsh reality, the harsh lessons, especially if the stupid prize that we won included phone call from a jail cell. Like that was the example that I gave last week because it could hit that level of a point. Some of us, we try to get something negotiated, and what we're going to find is the conversations and the thought we had over the weekend. We're going to get into Monday and Tuesday, and something is going to shift, turn, flip, and it's going to be specific to the Sun-Jupiter square. And that is the energy that goes exact on Sunday. But whenever we get into parts of Monday, specifically later in the evening, so some people might end up dealing with this on Tuesday, depending on your time zones and everything, when that energy plays out for you. Some of the energy that we're about to go into, where we thought we were, enforcing our will and telling somebody how to get something done, letting people know like how they need to make changes or whatever, there's going to be a bit of a flip in those people literally very quickly. And that flip is going to be like, you can't tell me what to do. Maybe I don't want to do it this way. Maybe I don't want this agreement anymore. Maybe this isn't going to be a good fit. And part of that energy is very much tied to that Jupiter Sun square. The other half of it might be whenever the moon joins the mix, and that actually does happen very, very quickly. And that's a part of Tuesday. It might be once the moon joins the mix that the extra energy, the extra individual, some of the things that'll come in very, very quickly at the first part of the week, that it is what actually changes our mind, changes the concept, changes something in the way we were seeing some things. It's almost like we had one thought in mind and very quickly a contradiction came into the mix. Whether that's on your side, somebody else's side, third parties getting involved in crap that they don't know nothing about, whatever that might be, it's definitely a part of the energy going into Monday and Tuesday of this week. There was a chaos to the weekend. There was a lot of energy, but mainly chaos. We had things going on. We had things just kind of popping up. It was hard to sit still. But whatever we were doing, we really needed to go into a very productive place, because if it didn't go into a productive place, then it left room for other things to play out. And that's where the harsh part of the reality comes in. Whether we're talking about the weekend's energy going into this week, so again, the 5th and the 6th going into the 7th. The 7th, of course, is Monday of this week that we're going into. Whether it's a part of the weekend or going into this week, the bigger parts of the energy are going in one of two directions. That is, we are either being helped in our cause, helped in our life mission, helped in our goals, helped in our trajectory and where we're meant to go next. And there's going to be a much bigger ascension energy that will start to come through over the course of the weeks to months ahead, not necessarily during the retrograde. But we're being shown certain things so that way we can help and overcome. Or we're being humbled. Venus's retrograde going through Leo has done pretty much what I thought it was going to do, and that was it's bringing out the shadow side. It's bringing out the things that make us want to release, relieve, purge, get rid of, let go. I'm sick of the shit. I'm sick of your problems. I'm sick of your drama. And we're kind of fixed, very fixed in this idea right now. Now, for some of us, we're making temporary decisions in temporary energy. And that again is because Venus is retrograde. However, some of us are using the energy of this retrograde to truly understand what our worth is. And anyone that's not willing to love us the way that we deserve to be loved, snip, snip, snip. The cutoff game is real. Venus in Leo is very, very empowered. But for her to have the gains that she's meant to have, again, we have to make some space. That is literally the energy that we've been in for a while, is making space. And if you're not making the space appropriately, if you're leading with your ego and you're being self-focused, self-centered, self-absorbed, then all of these Venus transits that we're about to start back up this week, because last week, Venus kind of had a break. And more of our focus was kind of tied to Pluto and what's been going on with Pluto, so we can help relieve Pluto's pressure. That was a part of the energy last week. That started to come through during the full moon and in the days following. But now we're going to start going back into the Venus transit and dealing with Venus's energy. This week has a lot of hyperactive things that takes us all the way to the end of the week. And by the end of the week, we have a very big revelation of some sort. Something gets revealed to us. Something gets understood. Something is seen. Something is announced. Something will be debuted specific to the things tied to this Venus retrograde. The chaotic, busy, I don't like using the word crazy, but sometimes crazy is the right one. There was a lot of fast-paced, fast-moving energy that was tied to the weekend, that because of the transits that we're going into and how busy things are going to be, In one way, we won't feel as mentally like busy for a few days while the moon is in Taurus. We won't be as argumentative and we won't be as combative. There's going to be some levels of stability, but the combative energy, the argumentative energy, it's still there. But it's not as reactive. We're coming from a fixed place, something that is very serious and near and dear to our heart, very much going towards something very, very specific. Okay. Let's get into Monday. Now, on Sunday, we had the Sun-Jupiter square, and that's actually when it went exact. However, based off where this happens in the chart, and by the way, for those that are listening to audio only, I have the chart on August 7th at 8:05 a.m. Central Standard Time. We have the moon at 3 degrees and 46 minutes of Taurus. Venus is picking up her speed again. She is at 24 degrees of Leo, where, you know, a week ago she was at 28 to 27. So she hasn't moved a whole lot. We haven't had a whole lot going on with the Venus things because, again, our focus has been on Pluto. But by the time we get to the end of the weekend, we're aware of what Pluto needed. Some of us, we've fixed, air quotations on fixed, we fixed some things with Pluto, for Pluto, around Pluto, about Pluto, whatever you want to say. We've done something in that area. And now we're able to shift again. Now, some of us, it's not a completely separate thing. It's not like, you know, oh, I had something go wrong with the car and I had to put it in the shop. Some of us, that was as simple as it was. That would be a great mundane, simple, like, oh yeah, I had to go put the car in the shop for a week. Now I'm in a rental. That would be one way. If it was that way for some people, I would think that it would be like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, Scorpio rising, but Sag risings too, with the Pluto part. But I don't feel like that's really going to be I don't feel like we're all dealing with like a mundane issue with this hyperactive energy that Venus is offering. I feel like we're dealing with a much bigger energy because Venus's retrograde is a very short window. And that window is roughly about 40 days and 40 nights. I actually feel like hers is longer this time. It's 42. But I have not actually counted the days out to give you that one in specific, so I'll just be fair about that. Okay. The moon is in Taurus. We are still in the Jupiter-Sun square. However, as the day continues, we're going to kind of pick up on some things. So in the very early mornings, when the moon is in Taurus, it's going to enter a sextile from Saturn. Part of this kind of feels like this does feel like it's very mundane. And if you have the ability to get some work done Monday morning before the evening hits and before Tuesday hits, because a lot more of the energy is like late evening on Monday. And again, I'm stating this from Central Standard Time. So if you're like East Coast, then it might be like afternoon. So again, the morning, do as much as you can to be as productive as you can in the energy, because there is going to be some things that will pick up later in the afternoon. Most of us, we need to be brought aware of something else that's going on. And it can have to do with management, it can have to do with HR, it can have to do with training, but not everybody's a manager, not everybody is in HR, not everybody would be a trainer in that regard. So there is this early morning opportunity to get some things done, and it's almost like giving you the chance to either recap and follow up on some of the stuff from the weekend, or understand where certain responsibilities need to be picked up or finished up or completed, or I want to say deputized, not that. Assigned. I'm going to say assigned. That's not the right word, but assigned. Here's your jobs, here's your chore list. Go do your honeydews. Go away. That can be a part of the Monday too, is trying to get, I would honestly say if you have the ability to be productive in the early morning, you should do it as best as possible. Either catch up from whatever is from the week before, or get ahead of where you're at as best as you can, because some of the energies will pick up very quickly. Some of us are still going to be dealing with the events from the weekend going into Monday and just having to deal with it in a more solid, sombered, humbled, sober energy, mindset, this type of thing. Oh, there can be a lot of knowledge and some lessons, some things that come through, some expressions that are going to happen on Monday. The egoism, though, it's still very, very strong. And even if there was, like I said, a hard lesson that already occurred, then it's very quick that that person can come back around and going, I don't need your help. I don't need your money. I don't need you. I don't ever want to talk to you again. And if you deal with that kind of person, that can very much come through. Now, the moon will actually enter its sextile to Saturn in the earlier part. So I have it written down as 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is when we're going to feel that one the most exact. And again, that is Central Standard Time. What's interesting to me, though, is while the moon is going to be in this sextile to Saturn, it's also entering an Antitia to Venus. So I feel like this is where somebody comes back around and, puts that bug in the other person's ear of like, well, you don't have to listen to them. You're a grown man. You don't have to listen to your dad anymore. You don't have to listen to your parents. You can make your own decisions. And it's like, this is around the time that the Easter egg energy, that's the little drop of energy of like telling somebody you don't have to listen to them. You can do it on your own because you're X, you're Y. Like, don't listen to them. Just do it. Just take care of it. You can handle it. It's going to be fine. If that is in fact the energy that kind of grabs, or if you see it grabbing another person, this is one of those times that I'm going to sit there and go, let them go off. Let them say whatever they're going to say. Make their speech, their preaching, whatever they're going to do. Because there's literally nothing in the temporary energy that you can do to convince them otherwise. Just to be clear, again, we're either in an energy where we're about to be humbled, or we're in the process of being humbled. Or we're seeing the guidance, we're seeing the assistance, we're getting the help. As the day continues on Monday, there's not a whole lot going on, which is great. It's actually not until the evening time. So again, for me, this is going to go literally late evening. I'm going to start this kind of in that overnight span. So we're going to start talking more about the 8th. And let me tell you, there's so many little transits to the 8th. It's crazy. Sorry, I don't want to do that. I just realized what I was going to do. So let me just list these transits real quick before I do all this with the wheel and everything, just to kind of grow this. So the moon will hit a trine to Mercury. That's actually going to start at between 11 p.m. and midnight and go all the way until like 1 a.m. That is when it's the most exact, actually at 12:05. You can see the moon is at 12 degrees 40 minutes. Here is Mercury at 12 degrees 43 minutes. Some of us were night owls. We don't have to have a full 8 hours of sleep. I can pretty well function off of like 5 or 6. I'm just being honest. The moon's trine to Mercury, and Mercury's in this exalted place, but it's also in shadow. There can be ideas and conversations that come through late Monday evening going into Tuesday, depending on your time zone. Some people, this will only be on Tuesday. But we're going to start having some ideas or conversations of something that we want to do, something that we're wanting to express, some type of conversation that's going to be had, that we think we have a great idea. And we're going to go full steam ahead. But we don't. And we're not going to know it for a while. Just to be clear. We're probably not going to know it for about a month and a half. This is kind of that time frame where we get some type of idea or impression. We start having certain conversations where we're getting guidance, we're getting some type of feedback that kind of allows for a progression, what seems like a logical progression. But again, as things will continue, we're going to Right now, everything's going to keep feeding into this logical progression. It's not going to turn around this week. It won't turn around until we get closer to Mercury's retrograde timeline. Depending on what this is where this is at in your chart, I cannot talk. Sorry. This can result in a couple of different things, but everything's meant to be very grounded and logical and tangible because it's earth to earth energy. Now, the moon is in that trine to Mercury. The moon will conjoin Jupiter and square the sun. Now, for me, this is happening between 2 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. Some of us are not going to get a lot of sleep on Monday night going into Tuesday. We're not. We're going to be dealing with some all-night stuff. Some of us are going to wake up the next morning and feel the overwhelm of the energy because of how many transits played out the night before. And it's going to be like we get full on ran over by some things. Like in the first part of the day, you go into the office and everything's upside down. Oh my God, the computers don't work and the fax don't work and the printer don't work. Oh, yeah, no, I said fax. I totally said fax. Everything's busted and nothing wants to work right and everybody's late and I ain't got no coffee. Again, just let them go. Let them get it out. Trust me on this. Just whenever they get to that point where they're breathing, be like, you feel better? You okay? No. Well, it's going to be okay. The moon will enter a trine to Mars. Now, this is going to be my time between 8:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. So again, we're still before noon. We're still before lunchtime. There's more things that require understanding, that's going to require some information, that's going to be some people at odds with one another, like, you never do your work, you're always making me pick up your slack, and I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we're supposed to be in a stable energy. But the fact that Venus is retrograde when the moon is going through Taurus right now, we don't feel that stability as much. We're going to feel the little vibration of just wanting to say certain things, needing to get something off our chest, needing to express certain things. But no matter what, no matter how we look at Tuesday, we are busy. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We're busy, 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 busy. And then by the time we get to the evening, the moon is not done. It's going to activate some things between Uranus and Venus. But again, that's going to be in the evening. So let's talk about more of the morning stuff. So right now, the moon is in its trine to Mercury. So it's imposing an idea. It's expressing some knowledge. It's giving some hope to Mercury about the reason things are going so crazy. It's because blah, 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 blah. I would answer it as an astrologer. So I'd be like, it's just the energy. It's temporary energy and we have to get through the crazy. Sometimes you just have to take a step back for other people and let them be crazy. However, not everybody's going to do that. Some people will be like, oh, they're just jealous. They don't know what to do. They just want what you got. They want your man. It's some type of that level of impression. It's planting almost like the wrong seed. I hate saying it that way, but it's the truth. There's something here. Now, not everybody's going to be up all night, and not everybody is going to have to deal with like this craziness all in the parts of the morning. So parts of this can also be like you can't sleep because you've dealt with so much through the day, and we're researching things. And what we're researching is only giving us a glimpse of whatever we're getting into, whatever knowledge or information we're trying to deep dive into. We're only getting one part of it because we're trying to find something that answers a quick question, and we're not giving enough time to get deeper into the questions. Hope that makes sense. So some people at midnight are going to be just up on YouTube like flicking. All right, when the moon hits this conjunction to Jupiter and enters this square to the sun, again, this is going to go between 2 a.m. and 6:30 in the morning. If you are asleep, this is a heavy, heavy dream energy. And you can actually wake up having a whole different impression of another person, a whole different idea of how to do something, a whole different intuitive feeling. You can also have hopeful connections that kind of come through. Like sometimes you dream that something is going to go right, or you get that internal impression like, yeah, this is going to be a great day. I hope it is, but for some people it's going to be kind of crazy. I usually like the idea of Moon Jupiter for luck, but given the way the rest of the transits are, if it's lucky for you, it's temporary luck. If it's not lucky for you, I'm not surprised. That it really kind of comes down to where this is playing out in your chart. But we definitely can get an idea or an impression. We can have things come through in our dreams, given the time of day that this is going to happen. And then the square to the sun is like waking up and knowing, I'm not. Maybe we didn't get any impression the day before from anybody. Maybe we wake up with this impression of, I will not do this. I will not be a part of this. I will not X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And we wake up going, nope, different plan, different idea. Not listening to dad, not listening to grandpa. They don't know what they're talking about. It's a whole different day. It's a whole different age. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. Just to be clear. But right now, if that's how you wake up, honey, nobody's going to convince you otherwise. And that just means we're getting grabbed by the energy and we're very much aware, or I'm trying to make you aware, basically is what I should say, that you can very much be grabbed by the energy. If you are going through a Sun or Jupiter perfection year, if you are a Leo or Taurus rising, like you can very much be grabbed by the energy these few days and be at odds with somebody else who doesn't have all of the information, but at the same time, very much likely you don't have all the information. Okay. After the Jupiter, Sun jumping around, the moon can also be an extra person coming into play. So it's like you had the meeting yesterday, but then you get into Tuesday morning, and somebody else is giving their opinion. It might not be a dream thing. You might actually have an actual person give you an opinion, but there's definitely something coming through where we get an altered idea or altered insight from whatever occurred over the weekend, or about another individual, or about a specific situation, or about how events played out. Like we get the more information, or we're getting a different idea of how to look at the situation. Over the course of the afternoon, you can breathe a little bit. That's not really going to happen until after lunchtime for me. And I'm saying that because the moon entering this trine with Mars, and this is the most exact between 8:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. So right now I have the moon at 18 degrees 9 minutes. It has just passed its trine to Mars, which is at 17 degrees and 59 minutes. So we have a stable push of our willpower, push of our drive, push in our momentum. Out of all the planets right now, I think the one that is the strongest to be able to get something accomplished without as much backfiring is Mars. It's not even the sun, it's Mars. So there is definitely like, it's almost like permission or the go ahead. There's something that very much speaks to getting permission to do something this week. But if we're in fact getting the permission, that once we get to later in this week, whatever we got permission to do, we end up hitting roadblocks towards it. So just to be clear, if you got approval Monday and Tuesday for a vacation day on Friday, this is not necessarily tied to the transit, it's just me using this as a date, then what you might find is that the plan that you have for Friday does not go to plan, because something in the universe will create a hiccup. But after the moon leaves its trine to Mars, this push towards, hey, this can be okay. Yeah, we're going to be, yeah, everything will go well. Yes, we're on time. Yes, this action will happen. Yes, we're going to have this meeting. Yes, we're going to do something. It's very much about confirming a progress, confirming a direction, confirming a will. Whenever the moon hits that trine to Mars, afterwards, we get to the point that we can finally be a little productive again. However, when you've had so much craziness going on in the first part of the day, it gets very hard to be productive again. But it is a part of the energy. As we get into the evening on the 8th, which is still just Tuesday, the moon is going to conjoin Uranus and activate the square to Venus. Now, this is not exact on the 8th. It goes exact on Wednesday. However, the moon comes in and kind of gives Uranus a little push. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, are you going to go meet? Hey, you finally going to talk? Hey, you finally going to do something? What's going on? Hey, you're ready for X, Y, Z? Hey, I heard so-and-so's in town. Hey, there's just a push to Uranus, an unexpected push, unexpected information tied to another person or another situation coming back around. And I'm saying coming back around for a reason. What was going on July 4th week? The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, that, I'm literally July 1st through, I'm going to say the 5th or 6th. That time span. What y'all have going on around that time? What could be coming back to? Venus and Uranus have already had their square, and it was back during that time. I think it was specific to July 3rd was when their square was. I don't think it was on actual July 4th. I feel like it was the 3rd. And now Venus is going to come back. So think back to what was going on. Did you travel somewhere? Did you go spend time with family? You might be getting word back from that family, that family member about like, hey, I want to do this again. Hey, how about I come visit you this time? If you went to some type of event, maybe somebody that you met at that event ends up contacting you going, hey, didn't you say at the barbecue, because it was 4th of July weekend, come on. Didn't you say at the barbecue that you do this? Like, isn't this your field? Oh, yeah. And we get this inkling of an opportunity from before coming back around. Now, that's a positive way to look at Venus and this Uranus square starting back up. The other way that this can come through is something was stated, offered, an opportunity, information, an idea, a seed was planted back then that now is coming back around, and it's not going to be the positive, like, hey, didn't you say you do this? It's more along the lines of, you lied to me. You didn't tell me the truth. You didn't keep your word. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. And Venus coming back around these few days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this is when they're the most exact. Wednesday is the exact, but right now we're still on Tuesday. This energy right here that's starting up right here, this can also be calling somebody on their shit. The moon's conjunction to Uranus can be the unexpected message of, hey, I'm going to be in town because we got appointments. I'm going to be in town tomorrow. You want to hang out? And you just saw that person like a month ago. There's nothing wrong with seeing that person again. But in some ways that it can be a positive turnaround. In other ways, it might not be as positive. But there's definitely something coming back around for a lot of us tied to that first 5 days of July, when the last Venus-Uranus square happened. Okay. What do I have here? Overnight can make us feel confused, nostalgic, overthinking, over-dramatizing the situation. But there's definitely a suddenness. Something tells me that once that moon hits the sextile to Neptune and that trine to Pluto, the way it is right here, it can make us very nostalgic, confused, but also wanting to talk about like the way some things have changed from the past. This is, I know this gets super specific, but like you watch a show, and I did this with my mom a few weeks ago. Like they put the American Gladiator thing on Netflix, and we were both talking about like what that was like back then, how it was different from like wrestling, and then how wrestling is different now. But then I also like told her about like American Ninja Warrior and some of the other things that have come through that have been like, I'm not going to say it's a spin-off of Gladiators, it's not, but it's like, but there's a similar concept, but also how much American Ninja is like different from American Gladiators. And I know American Ninja comes from an actual ninja show over across seas. I know all that. It's not about that. It was more like the popularity and the timelines of whenever they would come through, but it's like talking about something from the past and how much things have changed since that timeline. So I don't mind the energy in the later part of Tuesday into Wednesday or the overnight hours, because we can also just kind of dream about some of those old things and then kind of wake up remembering like how much something has changed. Because it is in the overnight hours, the moon is going to hit this sextile and the trine. So a lot of this energy kind of feeds into where we're at the next morning. Now, for some people, this can be a dream energy, like I said, but after the moon hits this trine to Pluto, some of us are going to be a little bit more awake during that. And that can happen, that goes the most exact around 5 a.m., between 5 and 6 a.m. So we can actually wake up feeling a little off, feeling a little bit in a funk, but not quite knowing why, not quite knowing how to shake it. There can also be something here that ties back to the Moon-Pluto conjunction that happened the Monday before, so back on July 31st. But it's more like talking about how far something has come, how far something has progressed, or where we're at. Now, shortly after that, the moon is going to go into Gemini. And once the moon goes into Gemini, our ability to process some things, especially if things happened the night before, is quicker. Where if you got a message whenever the moon hit that conjunction to Uranus saying, oh, hey, I'm going to be in town, just like a surprise thing, you're like, oh, shit. I don't know if I'm ready for that. But by the time we get to the next morning, you're going to be a lot more ready, a lot more socialized, and everything else. Now, I want to talk now about sudden things that are going to kind of come through with that Venus retrograde. For some of us, it's going to be sudden emotional shifts, like maybe at the 4th of July party, you were a little flirty with somebody, and now like suddenly they're coming back around in this temporary energy, and that leads to a hookup. As long as you understand that you are in temporary energy, I don't care. Do what you're going to do. You're going to make your own decisions. But just be aware of that. What you can also find in the Venus-Uranus square here is other sudden emotional shifts and relationship shifts. And that can be breakups. That can be tension. That can be fighting. I do feel like there's going to be some people in the Venus-Uranus square that are coming back around to call people on their shit. You're not doing this right. You haven't been carrying your weight. You lied to me back then. You've been lying to me. I know you've been lying to me. And over the last few weeks, we're coming to a head. And if you have all the receipts, Mars is in Virgo, since you got all the receipts to prove that so-and-so has been lying to you, this can be the day we address that. And again, that leads to sudden shifts in the relationship. The other thing that can come through with the Venus-Uranus square is sudden financial shifts. That can be based off of, this is your money house, like a Cancer rising, this would be your money house. Capricorn rising, this can be a money house. Aries rising, because Uranus is in your second house of money, so a lot of this can be money stuff for you guys. There can be sudden financial shifts, like having to suddenly go pay for something we were not anticipating, having to suddenly deal with that repair on the car, having to put money into some place that we weren't planning on. The other thing that can come through these 3 days is sudden information, news, clarification. It's like having lunch with somebody to talk, even though it can still go back to the July thing. Like, I know we haven't seen each other since the barbecue. I just felt like we could catch up. And then you're sitting there at the coffee shop and you're like, so what do you really know about so-and-so? Do you trust them? Do you believe them? Do you think that they would lie to somebody? And it's asking very specific questions. And the thing is they might not anticipate you're going to ask these questions. And they might be a little nervous to answer these questions, depending on the situation. Some people might be willing to answer all of them. But there's very much a conversation, a calling out, or like something we've been just reeling over and overthinking that now is coming back around. And in some way, shape, or form, it does tie back to events or a person or a situation from the first week of July. Because that's when the last Venus-Uranus square was. Once the moon is in Gemini, our ability to comprehend and conversate and process, it picks up quite a bit. We needed the energy shift. The last few days have been very stubborn and there's been a bit of combativeness to it. And once the moon goes into Gemini, like it's a lot more freer in thinking compared to other situations. So we have the ability to process the situation differently. Now, I want to add a layer to what I just said with processing. Right after the moon goes into Gemini, which, by the way, that would exact at 8:05 a.m. I'm not going to bump this by minute. Anyways, the moon is at 29 degrees, 59 minutes. If I bump this by 1 minute, it's going to be in Gemini. So just go with me on that. But right as that occurs, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, Mercury is entering its trine with Jupiter. Mercury, again, it's information. Where is Mercury? It's in Virgo. It's in the earth communication. So this is what I mean by receipts. We got screenshots. We got proof that's tangible. We can prove it. However, sometimes we need more than this physical proof. We have to talk to somebody about it. Jupiter's trine to Mercury tells me that there is a support in the conversations being had, in the situation, in the knowledge that's being exchanged. It's like you're going to, it's not necessarily like going to your best friend, because we always know that like my best friend is going to pick my side over anyone else's. I know them. But on the other side of that, it's like, it's going to the right person who can offer more information that couldn't have been offered sooner, that wouldn't have been understood sooner. And sometimes whenever we're going back to that person, or we're just going to them for the first time and asking for that insight, they're like, man, I really wanted to tell you then, I wanted to warn you, but I didn't know if you would listen, if you would take it the wrong way, and I didn't want to overstep, so I left it alone. But now we're not leaving it alone. We're aware of a lot more things. Mercury's trine from Jupiter gives insight. It gives an idea. It gives more information. Information that's specific to right now. This is the first of 3 trines between Jupiter and Mercury. You're only getting so much insight. You will not be getting all of the insight because you are not prepared for all of the insight. You are not prepared for all of the information. I'm not prepared. You're not prepared. Like, the universe is going to be the one that chooses it. So we get specific confirmation with the moon in Gemini and Gemini's ruler, Mercury, in its exaltation of Virgo, feeling very, very right and righteous, getting support from Jupiter. Getting permission, getting blessing, getting some type of extra. There is enlightenment, there is encouragement. There can also be news of an arrival or the actual arrival. So let's going in that regard. Considering right when that trine starts is whenever the moon does change signs. If you got the call the day before unexpectedly, like, oh yeah, I'll be in town tomorrow, you want to get some coffee? Well, this is the arrival. Going to coffee is the arrival. The other side of that can just be the arrival of news or information, not just the insight of the individual, but it's definitely like a help is on the way, something that allows for a challenge later. So let me add an extra layer to that by fast forwarding the screen. So for those listening to the audio version, that's fine. I've got this at August 9th. This is at 6:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is entering a square to Saturn. Where is Saturn? In Jupiter's sign. Where is the moon? In Mercury's sign. What's going on? Jupiter trying to Mercury. There's still a challenge here. There's still an information like you, and there's still this element of like calling somebody on their shit, but this one adds an extra level, and the extra level feels like missed responsibilities, irresponsibility, not taking responsibility, questioning how responsible somebody has been, questioning their authority, questioning their decision, who gave you that authorization, who said that you were in a position that you could even give that level of permission. Like, where did all of this come from? And again, there's like a CYA mentality going on. So we need to have the receipts and have the proof and be prepared. If Venus's square to Uranus was a work thing, and now like whatever project you did a month ago, they're coming back around saying, who gave you permission to spend this money on this event during the 4th of July? Like, who gave you that permission? Oh, they did. Can you prove it? Because they're saying that they didn't give you the permission. And if you don't have your documentation or the email or the text or something to prove, just because they forgot doesn't mean you're lying, to prove that you had that permission, then that's going to help you. That's going to be a part of that assistance between Jupiter and Mercury, because we have the proof. However, there's still a questioning going on between the moon and Saturn. So again, somebody is like not wanting to be responsible for this. Somebody is not remembering giving the authority. We're questioning why something has occurred, where the information come from. Like, there's definitely a questioning energy, a calling out energy. There's tension. there is tension to the energy as we get into Wednesday and deeper through the day of Wednesday. Oh, when the moon is in Gemini, like, it's noisy, but it's a little bit more gossipy. Like last week, whenever I was talking about the noise tied to Aquarius, everything had a purpose. Everything was necessary during that full moon energy. Now we're kind of winding things down and getting closer to the new moon that's going to happen next week. So after the week that we're forecasting right now. So we're winding down to something, but there's still a tensity in the energy even as we get into Wednesday. There's a lot of talking, socializing, a lot of misinformation, a lot of half-assed information. As a Gemini sun, we like to know a little bit about everything. We are the jack of all trades and the master of none of them. We will dive into information only to a certain extent to know enough to do damage, to know enough to talk semi-educated and semi-logically. But it has to be a very specific type of information for us to go full deep dive. Like, I want to know every bit of it, up, down, side to side. I'm an astrologer, man. Give me things from every form. I will read it and I will take it into it and I will start to find the connections. Like, it's a thing. However, some people are going to give some advice. They're going to give some ideas. They're going to just say some things that they don't have the proof. They don't have all the facts. They don't have all the information. They don't know what they don't know. And when the moon is in Gemini, there's going to be a lot of seeing people talking about things they know nothing about. And Mars is in Virgo. That's going to make parts of the next few days very irritating. Because it'd be like, where did you get this information? Where did you learn this? How did you learn this? And we're going to see this wave of just everybody suddenly having an opinion or suddenly being an expert. Every time something pops up in the media right now, suddenly everybody's an expert on that particular topic, and you're not. But there's something in the energy as we continue this moon in Gemini transit that is very much about too many opinions in the classroom, too many voices talking at the same time. It's kind of like being in the auditorium and sitting on stage, and all you hear is the noise of voices, but you can't hear specific conversations. There's a lot of noise. Okay. I'm going to keep fast forwarding this. We're going to get to the 10th, which is going to be Thursday. The moon will still be in Gemini. And Jupiter and Mercury, they are still in their trine. Venus and Uranus are still in the square, so we still have this energy. We're still talking with the same person, or we're telling other people about what was just discovered the day before, what they said whenever you called them on their shit. Like, we're still in this vibe. And there's going to be more questioning, more devolving, more adjustments, more change, more things coming through right as we get into Thursday. Now, for those that are listening to the audio version, I've got this on Thursday, August the 10th. It is at 7:05 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury is separating from its trine to Jupiter. Mercury is at 14 degrees, 33 minutes, and Mercury is at, Jupiter, I don't know if I said that right. Jupiter is at 14 degrees, 33 minutes of Taurus. Mercury is at 14 degrees, 58 minutes of Virgo. So we've still got certain information that we're in the process of getting. And partway through the day, the moon is going to square Mercury, and then it is going to square Mars. And this is where I feel like if you seen somebody post the day before, like, oh yeah, things like so-and-so messed up back then and they did this and da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. I'm like, where did you get this information? Why are you saying it that way? Who taught you that? The moon squaring Mercury, it's like, it's a fact check. It's a fact check. It's troubleshooting. I'm like, who? It's like, have you tried Control Alt Delete? Can we make certain steps happen? Can we not just jump to the farthest conclusion? Let's figure something out. Can you source your material? Something along these lines. It's questioning of the information, questioning of the ideas, questionings of the concepts. Now, the moon square to Mercury goes, we feel it the most between 12:30 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to get news, we're going to get questioning, we're going to get a call to set the appointment, we're going to get something coming through right around this time. For some of us, it's going to have to do with, again, explaining where we got our information. For others, it's confirming some information, confirming some type of situation. And considering Mercury is still less than a degree in its trine from Jupiter, that might be the source, whatever came through with the Mercury-Jupiter trine. And it's just like, but do you really know for sure if they've been doing this or not? Like, yeah, I do. I have the proof. I have witnesses. What else do you need? I have what I need. Not everybody is going to be okay with that. Not everybody is going to be on the same page. There is going to be some questioning to parts of that energy. And it's not going to end just because you said I have the proof. Or if it does, like, you can squash one, that doesn't mean that it won't come up again, maybe with somebody else. And there is part of this evening that feels like it goes into parts of the somebody else. So I'm going to keep fast forwarding this by hour. We're going to get deeper into the moon in Gemini. The moon is going to enter a sextile with the sun. So here's the moon. Here is the sun. This goes the most exact between... I have this at 6:30. Oh yeah, I know why. I remember why now. Why did I do that? 5:30 to 8 p.m. I wrote down the wrong time. I'm sitting here looking at the screen going, why did I do that? I don't know. Anyways, Dusty does stupid stuff sometimes. She writes down numbers incorrectly. I wrote down 6:30. I should have wrote down like 5:30. So, okay. Goes the most exact between 5:30 and 8 p.m. Here is the moon entering a sextile with the sun. This is not a heavy transit. This is just kind of a break in the monotony after some of the tensions that have gone on. This is more along the lines of like stating an intention, of going, hey, I got an idea. Hey, I heard about so-and-so. Hey, just want to check in on you. No big deal. Just making sure and confirming we're going to be good for a few days. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're fine. And it could be completely separate from everything else that's going on, which is fine. But the moon in the sextile to the sun, and the sun is... and all the transit energy that has been tied to the sun earlier this week, this does feel like a check-in. Like, hey, what's going on? Hey, are you okay? Hey, are you feeling okay? The other part of that can be, hey, I just want you to know I'm going to do this. I have an intention to do this. The plan is to be there next week. The idea is to, do this then. We're hoping to accomplish. I would like to do. I would love to do. Part of this can also be an intention just as much as a check-in. Not a heavy energy whenever it comes to the moon and the sun. However, as we get deeper into the afternoon, there can be, the evening, there can be another energy at play. And this is going to be really interesting for some people. Here's the moon at 19 degrees. It is going to enter a square with Mars and a sextile from Chiron. And when I was meditating on this particular part of the chart, I got a really specific image of my grandmother, actually, in a story from that timeline that I was picking up on, that I remembered. There's something about with the moon sextile to Mars and the moon sextile to Chiron, which is in Mars' sign, while the moon is squaring Mars. This is almost like, I know I can fix it. I know I can do it. I know I can overcome this. I know I can get a specific result to happen. However, I think I need somebody else's opinion. But this opinion is not a direct opinion. Like, it's not going from, like, I'm having this issue with my boss and I'm going to go talk to my coworker. No. It's more along the lines of, if you're friends with an old boss, and like, would you say I'm this kind of person? Would you say I'm combative in the workplace? Like, it's asking somebody who does not have a direct connection to enlighten you, to tell you how to fix something, to help you heal something, improve something, make something work differently, pushing forth an idea. The way we get the idea, the push to move forward on something, it's not a direct correlation. So I'll give you a little story about my grandma. My grandmother was a cardiac nurse. And in one particular instance, something came through and she thought she was snipping tape on somebody's chest, and she accidentally, and I know her, she was the epitome of the squirrel energy sometimes. Somebody caught her attention or something, and she snipped and she hit a wire. She hit a wire going either towards a heart monitor or pacemaker. Don't quote me on what the exact object was. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story was, this is an old country woman who is also a nurse, who has worked in so many different industries, but is now a nurse. And when that happened, all the machines go crazy. You know what they do. It's in the hospital. And her mindset And her redneck ingenuity was, when that happened, she immediately pulled the wire back that had just been cut, was able to twist the wires back together, use the medical tape from her pocket. This really happened. I swear to Christ, this really happened. She pulled her medical tape out and then taped that wire really fast. There wasn't even, like, there was no troubleshooting. There was no, oh, how do I fix this? Oh my God, what did I do? It was instant, instinct, gut took over. She knew to do that, not because she's a nurse, but because she has had a ranch, and if you have to fix a fence, you have to, get the wires out, and you have to do it a certain way. If you've had to re-electrical wire something, like, there's a certain amount of knowledge when you've been in a multitude of industries that you carry with you. And as soon as she did that, she went to the desk, called the doctor, told the doctor what she did, what had happened. The doctor's like, well, is it working now? Well, yeah. She told him what she did. And he was very quiet. She told me the story. It was the funniest thing. And her coworkers told me the story too. So it was hilarious when it happened. It was hilarious when I heard it, after the fact. Well, what made you, like, is it working? Oh, yeah, I think I got it fixed, at least temporarily. You might have to do something different tomorrow. Okay, well then, you got to keep the patient alive. It was a cardiac nurse. Sure enough, the next morning, the doctor came through, saw what she did, and scratching his head, and he's like, what made you do all that? And she's like, I don't know, it just made sense. When she told me that story, I'm like, that's because if we had just hit a fence, that's what first thing we would have done. We would have grabbed the baling wire, we would have grabbed pliers, we would have grabbed everything, and we would have fixed that fence right then. We wouldn't have let it stay open for a potential cow to go through. We would have fixed it. That's what happened. Your instinct that I will fix this mentality that we have, because I'm very, very similar to my grandma in this way. We just did. It was an instinct. There was nothing taking over. This is that type of thing. It's calling somebody, getting insight, or figuring out how to do something from an indirect situation, from a past situation, from past experience, from different knowledge, or getting insight from somebody else that has no tie to it. It's somebody from your past, somebody that you've done things with in the past from. It's not heavy, but it's very enlightening in a lot of ways. It's just kind of a check-in going, hey, you remember so-and-so and all this? How did you deal with that? How did you fix that? How did you work through that? It's like, oh yeah, we did this, 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 and this. Why are you doing that? No, I'm not. I'm doing something completely different. But something energetically, some pattern that's coming through reminds you of that. That insight, that back knowledge, that previous thing, the thing that's tucked in the back that's going to suddenly right to the front of your brain going, oh yeah, I have dealt with something similar. And we need insight on how to proceed, an action to take, an idea that we have an insight. But we need input, or we gain input, or we remember something that's completely separate from the action at hand. Moon square Jupiter. Or not Jupiter, square Mars. I just want to talk about Jupiter all day. Anyways. After the moon leaves its square to Mars, we might have one of those evenings that we're overthinking, we're having a hard time, like we're going through our old DMs, we're going through our old things. And when the moon hits this overnight sextile to Venus, there can be, if you're not sleeping, you can suddenly like really start thinking about that romantic missed opportunity, that romantic situation. You can suddenly get a message from somebody that you're not anticipating since Venus is retrograde. Like you can be looking through something and you get that notification or you get that message. If there's something in your message requests, like that type of thing. Because the moon and Venus are actually moving towards one another, there is something a little reciprocal here. Are you necessarily going to message somebody at midnight, 1 a.m.? No, not necessarily. Because right now, where I have it on the screen. We have it at August 11th, so now we're starting to go into Friday at 1:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, and that's when the moon is going to enter this sextile to Venus. Oh, if you go to sleep with somebody on your mind, you might wake up in a weird mood. I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm saying this because of the transits. You might wake up in a little bit of a weird mood. And that is because by the time we get to the morning, the moon, still in Gemini, is starting to enter a square to Neptune, and no other energy is really at play. Venus and Uranus are more than a degree apart. Mercury and Jupiter are more than a degree apart. So Venus and Uranus in their square, Mercury and Jupiter in their trine, they're more than a degree apart. So the only energy going on for this part of the day is the moon square to Neptune, and this is Friday. So we might go into work, feeling good and feeling we're going to get something accomplished, feeling like everything's going to go really well. But then as the day progresses, it kind of feels like some people start to lose their mind or not paying attention, or they're doing ditzy things, or we get a little lethargic, we get a little lazy, and I don't think I want to do everything. Sometimes we go to lunch and we have something extra to drink. And then when we go back to work, we're like, I don't want to do anything. And that energy really starts to hit. Now, the other reason this energy is also starting to hit is we've been in a mental overload. All of this week, there's been so many hit, so much activity. Bam, 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 up, down, side, side. The roller coaster ride, the tilt-a-whirl, it has been super crazy up until Thursday night. When we get into Friday morning and Friday itself, the energy starts to calm down. Is our mind still overactive and busy and overthinking? Yes. Can we overthink ourselves into issues? Yes. Are we overthinking so much to the point that when somebody else brings us some type of information or asks us a question that we can actually answer them logically? No. Especially if we get to this part of Friday and you're like, I'm done. There's something about Friday afternoon after the moon goes into this square with Neptune, which this is the most exact, literally lunchtime. It's between 11:30 all the way to 1:30. It is lunchtime for most of the American time zones. There's this square right here that, there's confusion, there's a fogginess. I don't really want to do anything else. We get lethargic, we're getting melancholic. It's I'm done with this week. There's been too much going on. I'm just done. We get to Friday and we're done. There's a couple reasons why I feel like that hits. We do have a struggle with keeping our attention span. Every time somebody says something off the wall, it just hits us the wrong way. You're having those last minute meetings on a Friday afternoon. You're like, I am not engaged. I don't want to talk. I don't want to deal with you. I'm done. Because we're done. We are done. However, right after we get off work. So for me, this goes exact at 5:52 p.m. Central Standard Time. Add or subtract for your time zones. 5:52, the moon's going to go into Cancer. This is not like last weekend when the moon went from Pisces to Aries and it went to fiery energy. No, it is not. But there is some things that we need to start doing this weekend to decompress everything that has come through. There are parts of this weekend that we have the ability to really get into our own self-care. We need to do a check-in with ourselves. We need to catch up with things around the house. We need to finish that project from the weekend before because we got too many phone calls because other people wanted to do stupid stuff. And we didn't finish everything. But there's some parts of this weekend, specifically Friday all the way into Monday, because some people won't actually get the revelation that I'm about to get into this weekend. They won't get that revelation or see that revelation till Monday. However, Once the moon goes into Cancer, the vibe is different. We're not overthinking. We might still be kind of confused. That confusion might have led to some weightiness in us. However, it's not a crazy energy. In fact, the biggest thing I can say about next weekend, so the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, it is self-care energy. It is doing the things that nurture yourself, doing the things that create a different nurturing environment. It's making some changes. These changes that we make, whether it's a physical change in ourselves, something in our surroundings, or we decide that I'm going to go do something that's just going to be good for me. And we might go car shopping or actual shopping this weekend. There can be some shopping stuff. But this is about doing what's best for you, your mindset, your energy, starting Friday evening. Self-care weekend for a lot of people. Now, I want to play devil's advocate for a couple of things whenever it comes to that earlier part when the moon was in that square to Neptune. That melancholic energy can be there. That, we can also get that, like, that blast from the past type of, like, message from somebody, like, hey, I wanted to see what you're doing. Can you hang out this weekend? You want to do something? Like, I don't know yet. Let me get back to you. That type of thing. We can get some type of inspiration whenever the Neptune moon square is happening. And if it's inspiration, that might be a part of your self-care energy once the moon goes into Cancer. And I will further that explanation shortly. But there is something that we need to really get into. Binge watching or deep dive some type of information but it's not going to be tied to the week. We need something to help reset our energy. So sometimes we just need to go binge watch our favorite show on TV, and I'm going to rewatch the whole season this weekend. I need something different. The other thing I want to bring up, and this is going to be very specific. So like a lot of my medical people that listen to me, I know my sister listens, and she's up in the Oregon area. There can be very specific things with medications on this day. Like we might issue a medication to somebody that has a test energy to it. And this is more tied to what's going to happen because of the Mercury retrograde that we're going to go into very quickly. Be aware that, like, if we don't, make sure we're asking the additional questions if we can on Friday, if we have the ability to process. Ask the additional questions about symptoms, because you might not be getting all of the symptom-related things, and we might end up issuing medication that's not right. Or if you're talking to your doctor and there's a doctor's appointment around this time, that we tell them some of our symptoms, but they're not correlating it to the rest of your situation. So they might misdo something with medicines. Or the other thing I picked up on is, like, we need to try an old medicine, but for a different reason. If we do have all the information, then it might be like, well, we could try this again. I know we had it before and it wasn't helping your blood pressure, but this is also really good for diabetes. It's really good for kidneys. It's really good for something else. And you'd be like, oh, I didn't know it was multi-purpose. That can be another part of the vibe. And then the weekend is just kind of like getting an idea of what it feels like to your senses. Understanding, like, how your body feels. Better or worse. Okay. But after the moon goes into Cancer, it is low pressure. We have some adjustments that we want to make. We need to vibe. We need to chill. We need to shake the funk from the weekend, or from the week going into this weekend. We need to feel better. Now we're going to go into the 12th. So we're going into Saturday. Saturday is chill. It is so chill. Okay. In the early mornings. So that I have it August 12th is at 3:05 a.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday morning. I have the moon at 4 degrees of Cancer in a trine to Saturn. This goes the most exact between 1:30 and 3:30, so it's wrapping up around the time that I've got it on the screen. But there is something here that has to do with, like, past responsibility, past loved one. We can have those, like, downloads or those memories coming back through from, grandpa or our childhood or mom or grandma, like something, you know, growing up on the ranch, going to see this thing. Like there can be a nostalgic energy to it, but it's like having something coming through, dreaming about something from the past. But it can also be, if you're not a big dreamer, some people don't dream at all. I envy you and your Earth Moon placements, but it's not always that way. But a lot of times, Earth Moons, like the way you get your messages, is not the way other people do. Like it's not their dreams. But with Saturn and its trine to the moon here, what it can also be is kind of waking up thinking, it's time to do something different. It's time to make a change. It's time to get caught up. I need to adjust my responsibilities. I need to fix something around the house and handle my responsibilities because there's been so much that has been going on. It's been a crazy ass week. Now, after the moon leaves its trine to Saturn, which again, that was exact between 1:30 and 3:30 in the morning. After the trine leaves its placement with Saturn, it doesn't do anything else until the night. It doesn't do anything until late in the evening. So this is an entire day of just the moon in Cancer and just vibing and just getting things done and just taking care of things around the house and just putting some effort into your self-care and doing some things that are going to kind of bring you back into balance and give you some peace. Starting a couple things around the house, but whatever we're starting should again kind of speak to the things that need to be taken care of. If we want to, like, if you don't have a yard, some people have an apartment. You're not necessarily going to go do yard work. You can't necessarily repaint anything because it's an apartment. You can only clean so much because it's an apartment. And we might have a whole different vibe that we want to do. We want to do something that, again, it can help us. It can help our energy and help our mindset. But it's still part of that self-care. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money spending. So I wrote down like a couple of like quick hobby things that you could do. Like, nobody needs to teach you. It's so easy. Just pick back up and do it. If you've done it before. Sewing, knitting. Not everybody has sewn and knit. I know what I said. Coloring. Adult color books. I have a bunch that I've never ever used, but they were gifts, so I still have them. Dancing, Pilates. But if we're dancing, like, again, just kind of dance around the house. Do the dancing and the cleaning. Shake the funk. Get your body moving. Something that keeps you distracted from the week. Finishing out the projects, like I said, those final little touches. Like if you did something like really cool with your Jeep and now you're like wanting to like really clean and streamline everything and make it like shiny and pretty. That can be part of this too. This is a big part of the energy of the weekend. And the other thing is, like, there's going to be some things that really get debuted and come to the surface, but that's not going to be on Saturday. Not really. The majority of it we're going to see on Sunday. Saturday, we're vibing. We're getting things done. We're working on ourselves. We're dealing with some emotions. We're processing some of the things that had just occurred over the week. And we're not really doing anything. Some of us might be spending some girl time. Like, I want to go do a toe date. Let's go shopping. Let's just go do something. Excuse me. Do something like crazy. Let's just go do something that's fun and do it for us. And then by the evening, and I do mean evening, I have it on August 12th. It is at 10:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I have the moon at 14 degrees with a sextile from Jupiter. Like, it's not crazy. It's being at the end of the day, you've been doing everything. It's just you and the dogs, you and the cat, you and your music and the house. And not a whole lot going on. You get that message from your homie and like, hey, how was your day? It was great. What'd you do? Nothing. Really? Like, not a thing. Didn't do anything. Well, I'm wanting to dye my hair, but I can't really get to the back because I want to bleach it. I need another person. This is going to be more for girls than guys, just to be clear. Would you be willing to help me come like do my hair tonight? Sure. That's going to happen. Not going to happen to everybody, but it's going to happen. Some people might just decide that they're going to do their own coloring at home. They don't need an extra person. And it's just like, you still have that check-in message of like, hey, how was your day? It's great. It's absolutely great. It's so much better than what this week has been. Oh, well, that's wonderful. I just wanted to see how everything's going. It's like, yeah, you take that selfie and you show like your head covered in the aluminum foil or in a bag or something like that. Like, yep, just doing things. Why do I keep going to the hair thing? I know everybody wants to know. Because of the energy that starts Saturday night, but it's actually going to be exact on Sunday, and that is the Venus Cazimi. Right here. In the early part of Saturday, they were pretty separated. So there's going to be parts of Saturday that it's just wanting to do something, finish touches, making a change. Some people might go shopping. Some people might be, working on a few things. But there's about to be something that we want to reveal, that we want to tell people, that we wanting to debut, that we're wanting to talk about, we wanted to show off a little bit. And parts of that are going to be Sunday's energy. We might be up late dyeing our hair because it's just the vibe that we're getting. If you're sitting there having drinks with your girlfriend and you're doing her hair at 3 o'clock in the morning, the moon is going to hit this sextile to Mercury. And that's just kind of that energy of like somebody walking in the kitchen. Why are you laughing? It's like midnight margaritas. And then you just see the hair dye stuff and you're like, never mind. I'm going back to bed. Keep it quiet. Be quieter. Just be aware. However, more of the energy is tied to Sunday. So I'm going to get this a little bit deeper. And there's a lot of energy to Sunday. So I'm going to read this out. The moon, of course, is going to be in Cancer all day. The moon will conjunct Venus. I'm not the moon. Sorry. The sun conjunct Venus goes exact at 6:22 a.m. So there can be some reveal, debut type things that happen on Saturday. More of it, I think, is going to happen on Sunday. The moon's going to sextile Mercury, like I just said. The moon is going to square Chiron. The moon will sextile Mars. And then Uranus will sextile the moon. It's a lot of moon transits. The only thing that's kind of heavy is the square from Chiron. But given what happened a few days earlier, I feel like the square from Chiron is almost like picking back up on what happened whenever the moon was in the square to Mars. So it's like calling your old boss going, do you really think I'm combative as an employee? Or trying to find that external workaround that can influence this other area that's totally different. The moon in the square from Chiron honestly feels like it's getting that check-in from the old boss going, hey, how'd your meeting go? How'd that thing go? How'd that end up working out? Did you get it fixed? Did you get it figured out? Like, it's just a check-in. It does not feel horrible. It's just kind of feels like that recollection energy. The moon sextile to Mars, it's like the inspiration, it's influence, it's ideas, it's seeing somebody take a certain action. Not all of it is going to be tied to some of it from the week. Some people are just going to be seeing the final product of something. Some people will have different ambitions announced. By the time we get to the evening time, because Uranus and the moon, they're late in the afternoon, so it's like 2 to 4 p.m. And that's really kind of the last transit for the day. But what you're going to find is as the day progresses, getting into that afternoon, evening time, is like people are going to be uploading a lot of photos. They're going to be revealing things. They're going to be debuting that revenge bod. I got that Lipo 360 and look at my figure. I'm so cute. What are we announcing? There will be an announcement. Like sudden relationship changes happened earlier in the week. It might take a few days before everybody actually sees like so-and-so broke up. Oh my God. And that's when we see the revelation, the things coming to light, coming to the surface. Venus is retrograde, so we're going backwards and it's going into the heart of the sun. We have something that needs to be addressed, that needs to be seen, that's going to be announced. We're learning something in this revelation. We are seeing something that has changed and transformed, that's getting a new beginning. Who are we becoming? Sometimes the announcement is not necessarily just, we broke up. Sometimes it's the other way around. It's like, I'm the future Mrs. So-and-so. Ah. And that leads to later what's going to be a Venusian identity change. I don't mind level ups during the Venus retrograde. I don't necessarily want like the new relationships, because sometimes they're going to have a toxic pattern to them, because we are in such temporary energy. But some people, what they're going to reveal is like they went out and bought their dream car. They got that new Jeep. Look at the modification I just did on my Jeep. I got a lift and new tires and da-da-da-da-da-da. There is a revelation. So, seriously, pay attention. Go watch your social media feed. Like, watch it on TikTok, watch Instagram, wherever you watch your social media feed. I'm usually on Facebook. And as we get to the last part of Sunday, you're going to see these things in your feed. I remember last year, the Venus Cazimi during the Capricorn Venus retrograde. And that Cazimi was also on a weekend. And I've said this before, like there was like 30 plus people, like new hair, new do, new me, how you doing? And they were just showing off a whole new thing that they had done. A lot of it had to do with like hair color and stuff like that, but there was also the relationship things too. This is a lot of that. This is going to be revelation. The other thing that people can do is finally be compelled to reveal something about themselves in another way. And that can be two people having a conversation about their feelings, about how they have felt in the past, where they're going into the future. This can be a part of the revelation, and it can lead to things later on. But when the sun makes this conjunction to Venus, there is a rebirthing for Venus. And we've had one of these in the last year. Venus had a rebirth back during eclipse season. For those that don't remember, not this earlier eclipse season, but November's eclipse season. Because that Scorpio season, right before Venus and the sun went into Scorpio, they started their conjunction in Libra. It was like 29 degrees of Libra. We're at another energy tied to the star points. So we're hitting a point in Venus's trek. We're coming to I'm going to call it a high spot. It's not necessarily a high spot, but we're definitely hitting like a center point to her energy and to the things that are going to be tied to this retrograde right around here on the 13th. There is a revelation, things coming to the surface, announcements, breakups, changes, celebrations in a certain way, but the celebration again has to do with what they're just revealing. Like, we've been working on this for so long, and now I get to tell everybody we're starting our own thing. We're opening our own brick and mortar store. We're gonna do this. We're doing this. We're making this change. It's gonna be great. We're telling the world now. All of a sudden, today, everybody's making the same type of announcement energetically. Is everybody going to get their announcement on Monday or on Sunday? Not necessarily. Because again, some of this might carry over into Monday and Tuesday based off work weeks and what's going on in like that human element for you. But there is definitely something coming to the surface, something coming to light, something being revealed, something being debuted by the end of the week. And if all of this weekend was self-care energy for you and you were, just doing things to make yourself feel better, that can be a part of this too. I stick with the hair dye thing. I always feel like that's the easiest one. If you didn't have anything planned, you didn't know what was going on, just this weekend, like suddenly everybody's dyeing their hair. Which can happen. On the medical side, this kind of makes me nervous for people that are having issues with like their blood sugar or blood pressure, any issues tied to specific organs, because there can also be a bit of a burn up coming through. And I hate to say that, I'm not trying to be negative. It's not going to happen to everybody, but there's definitely something that can come through, or something in your body that can be activated by the Kazemi. But I feel like for more people, it's going to be the revelation, the revealing of things, changes, that new vibe, the new energy. This is the new me, bitches. Like, good for you, baby. So, and I feel like more people are going to be dealing with that than anything else. But we'll see when we get there. I gotta, like, I don't know, 9 days until then right now when I'm sitting here recording this. So I gotta get through the Aries stuff with you guys. Oh, it is going to be a very interesting week. We are very much still going through the hyperactive energy that is tied to Venus and this retrograde. We have so many changes that are about to come through, so many changes that have already come through that haven't even hit the new energy of what's going to come through. And we're going to get to, like I said, it's a bit of a high point whenever we get to the Kazemi. We're going to have insight. We're going to debut things. We're going to have a whole different level of attention that'll start to come through after whatever gets revealed for people. And there's an awareness to that for a lot of people. I'm excited. I like the idea of the Venus Kazemi. I like the idea of the Venus Kazemi and the fact that right now there's not a hard impact to Venus. Like, it's semi in a square to Uranus still, and it might be some of the events tied to the Venus-Uranus square that happened earlier in the week that lead to that reveal of the Venus-Sun conjunction of the Kazemi. If you presented the facts to somebody over the week, and then you get to the weekend and you're like, I'm done, and you're doing all the status changes in your relationship, and you had your moment of crying it all out. You got your girl time, and now we're like, I'm single. Girl power, baby. Girl power. Boy power. Sometimes you need some boy power. Whatever you need to get through this week, do those things that also can keep your body in alignment and grounded. Do those stretches, do the thing. If you start to feel that, like, compression in your spine, I've said this before, like, make sure you're doing the stretches. Make sure you're doing those things to loosen that tension up. Because the thing is like, there's so much energy to this week that is tense and is about the tension and is going to lead to more tension, that we need to be aware of what's coming through, and we need to anticipate the shifts and the adjustments and the changes. And the only way that you can do that is by keeping your body as in alignment as possible. So do those things that can decompress your spine and stretch out energy in your hips and and just all these different areas of your body. Do those things that can keep your heart chakra in balance. I mean, we're talking about Venus Kazemi in Leo. That is definitely tied to the heart chakra, guys. Heart things are coming, things that speak to the heart. Regretfully, sometimes things that will break the heart, but ultimately, in the long run, can heal your heart in many ways too. So I hope this is helpful. I'm sorry that my allergies are killing me today. I took a pill, and yet still I have, like, the phlegminess, so I apologize for that. Didn't mean to, like, cough in people's ears, but I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all the feedback. I will talk to everybody very, very soon, and subscribe.